And then let me get this YouTube thingy. See if it works this time. I don't know if it will. We're having a trouble with the YouTube.
It shows live on mine.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it's actually the YouTube that you're looking at. It's a problem.
It even shows on mine. It's recording live on YouTube, streaming live on YouTube.
But are you looking?
I don't know if it's the real YouTube. That's a problem.
You need to look at YouTube to see if you're seeing
Yeah.
the current one.
If
Is
it's
what
right.
Mark's saying. You know,
Correct.
you may be seeing an old one.
And if it's the case, what we have to do is record it. So let me just get this going on here. Take a quick look.
Oh, okay, it came from Cezanne. I got it. Okay.
Looks like board meeting was streamed to, it says it's the board meeting May 29th, but no, it's actually, it's the old one from last week or the week before.
Okay.
Jeez.
Somehow we have to figure that out.
Yeah, I've tried 2 or 3 things. So I guess we're gonna record it.
Okay.
We are recording this. Okay, Paul, let her rip.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order at 3:02. Lynn, do you have an agenda in front of you?
I do. We have a quorum.
Do we have any minutes to approve?
We do. Are there any members speaking?
Yes.
Yes, we have one member speaking. Chap, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
Okay, I have a letter to read into the record from a resident. I in no way endorse or refute what I'm about to read. It's simply I've been asked by this resident to read it into the record, okay? To the master board, to the master board of Sterling Oaks. My husband and I have owned property in Sterling Oaks for 6 years. We have always loved the area. However, we are concerned that the board is having a negative impact on property values and community reputation by some of the actions currently being taken. It is my understanding that the board has an obligation to make decisions for the betterment of the entire community. What appears to be happening is that there are special interests at work and decisions are made more for special interests than for the good of the whole community. This is especially true when board members don't listen and or respond to the concerns of residents. Here are my examples. There's been a board assumption and a statement made in meetings that renters are the only people here who violate traffic laws. I would say that most people that are still staying here at this time of year are not renters but owners. In the last 2 weeks, I have witnessed bikers and cars who run stop signs along with multiple speeders. In fact, it's so bad that in the space of 5 minutes, I had to literally jump out of the way of 2 cars or would have been hit. My husband and I witnessed someone else on Sweetwater Lane who had excessive speed right in front of our building, even though there was a speed bump. Speed bumps don't slow anyone down. It is not a fair statement to say that only the renters are the problem here. Statements to that effect from the board do not represent fairness and equity. Board action is needed to protect all residents and renters from clear violations of traffic laws, both for cars and bicycles. Second, in the recent plan for reopening Sterling Oaks, the main pool remained closed while the Wildcat pool was reopened. While I understand the reasons for keeping the main pool closed, why didn't the residents temporarily use the Wildcat pool until the main pool reopened? This seems like the equitable thing to do since this is off-season. Renters outside of Wildcat have no facilities to use, even though we continue to pay for them. Third, Any normal restaurant cannot remain open if it's unprofitable. It is fiscally irresponsible for the board and owners to continue to fund a non-profitable restaurant. The restaurant should either stand on its own or be closed. It is not fair for us to continue to fund this. Fourth, realtors that do not sell in Sterling Oaks readily admit that the monthly fees are too high. The board continues to ignore this issue, but it is borne out by the fact that property values are going down. I can give you multiple examples of condo fees and light communities of lower fees. Fifth, this is not a country club, but the arrogance of the board and the office staff would suggest that it is. We are property owners who pay thousands of dollars each year to be here. Yet it seems that we do.
I did something and I'm out of the Zoomer here.
The board appears to think it knows best and ignores the concern of owners. The board is not representing us, only their interests, and will not allow any contrary opinions. Lori at the front desk acts like it is beneath her to talk with owners or accommodate us in any way. This must stop. This type of arrogant behavior is driving people to sell their property at a loss. I'm almost done. 6, I'm deeply concerned by the recent comment from one of the board members that suggested another assessment for condo owners. Have you considered the fact that a lot of people have lost a significant amount of money lately? Why are we not looking at ways to lower costs overall? Doesn't the board have a fiscal responsibility to the community to do just that? Here are my suggestions. How about a single landscape contract, for example? Multiple companies. These people live in the condos. Multiple companies are here every day, which has to drive up the cost. I'm sure we pay for every trip here. How about a seasonal trash contract that reduces services in the off season? What about reevaluating what we charge for tennis memberships for people who do not live in Sterling Oaks? Why should non-tennis players have to subsidize tennis at all? Why do we have multiple capital fund fees? Weren't they supposed to go down once we had the assessment? What about evaluating the cable fees so we don't pay for the service when we are not here? Why do we now pay for a second cable box? All right, by Florida and federal law, major members of an HOA board must perform their duties in good faith, in a manner that any reasonable person would use under the circumstances. HOA board members may not make decisions that benefit their own interest over those of the members. Clearly, any decisions made by the board must be for the betterment of all owners and renters. In these unprecedented times, it is incumbent on the board to carefully guard our assets to protect our future at Sterling Oaks. Though it may not be intentional, this board appears to be making decisions in their own self-interest that will not serve Sterling Oaks well either now or in the future. The responsibility to equitably serve our community with fiscal and conservative restraint rests on the shoulders of every board member. I'm expecting a response to this letter in 10 days. I want to see your plans to conserve our funds and reduce our monthly fees. Sincerely, Lucy Gross, G-R-O-S-Z. That's it.
Okay, I understand we made a response. Mark wrote a letter, made the responses.
And she also told me.
Go ahead, chap. You had a
and she also, the lady also called me. We had a good discussion. I think as of today, Lucy is much calmer. And I think the matter is, at this point, pretty much settled to everyone's satisfaction.
Good. I think the more information that gets out there, people are happier if they understand. Okay.
Question?
Go ahead, Lani.
She asked for a copy of the tennis financials. Did someone send that to her?
I talked to her, I told her, I gave her the numbers.
Okay.
I gave her the tennis financial numbers, and I think she's satisfied.
Okay.
Okay, any other speakers? Okay, very good. Let's move on to, we have no reports. We only have one item for business, and that is the Small Business Administration Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP.
Can I approve the minutes first?
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 14th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
okay, second, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 20th meeting, 2020.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye. Any opposed?
I'd like to
None.
make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 27th, 2020 meeting.
Okay, I need a second.
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 Chap seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We've been busy.
Yeah,
Anything else, Lynn?
no, that's it. I'm done.
Okay. So we have no reports. Let's move to the Paycheck Protection Program. I'll give you a brief introduction, then I'll have Mark talk about our status and what it means, and then we can have some discussion. And then we will vote. So we're applying for this federal program. We applied and received the grant to the tune of $188,000 roughly. And it's my understanding that the loan proceeds may be forgiven. Funds spent on eligible payroll and other expenses during the 8 weeks following the date we received the loan may be forgiven. The actual amount will depend mainly on your total incurred payroll costs and other eligible expenses that they have outlined here. At least 75% of these proceeds must be applied to payroll costs. And we can apply some of the rest toward utilities and maybe some other odds and ends. So we need to, that's the gist of the program. We've already received a $10,000 Small Business Association grant earlier on. This one will be above and beyond that to the tune of roughly $188,000. So Mark, would you fill us in on where we stand and how we might use this money if we accept this program?
All right, let me start from the beginning. When the PPP loan was first introduced and we went to apply for it, we had to find out, where to apply for it at, and then we found out that we could go through our bank. At first, we really didn't understand the nuances of the entire program, and it took some investigation on our part, along with Geraldine, Cezanne, and I, and then we talked to the bank. I actually have been in touch with several of the other communities in Southwest Florida that have all been doing the same. Some received it, some were denied. All went through the same process. Some used Wells Fargo, some used other banks. We used First Citizens, which is our primary operating account bank. They sent us the Small Business PPP loan application. The application is a very detailed form that specifically wants you to fill in all of the information from the payroll that you have had that is documented by the IRS and by our auditors, as well as the payroll company that we use, which is TriNet, or as it's our PEO partner. So we went through that entire process. That took us quite a long time because it is a very detailed application. The amount of the loan of $188 is specific to the application amount based on the payroll that was throughout the year in the 8-week period in 2019. That's how we came up with the money. In other words, we had to go through a period of time and say, this is the payroll, this is the total payroll, this is how it breaks down, this is the amount an 8-week period could probably be if we were either in season or out of season as an average. That worksheet was then sent to the bank along with the application, and that's how we received the document that you all have seen in front of you. You've seen the loan given to us by the bank, which is funded through the federal government. I also sent you what you saw was TriNet, which is our payroll company. They manage our timekeeping, our payroll and benefits, 401k, etc. So when you see that those payroll figures, those are for a 2-week period in time. You can see that in January they're higher when we were busy, and then when we really shut down in April, it compressed down to about 37,000. And now we kind of modified it with the people that we kind of brought back on staff, and we've opened up a little bit with tennis and the pool, etc. You see that it's kind of come back up to around the 40 some odd thousand mark. So when if we do approve this, you folks approve this, I will sign the document and then I will ship it to the bank. The bank will then process that loan, and then we will open up a completely and separate account specifically for that loan amount at First Citizens. We are going to have to, at that point in time, if we decide to do this, we will fund specifically payroll. Each time that TriNet sends us an invoice for the payroll, we will specifically apply it to that account so that we can monitor and track it completely. In discussions with Nathan Phillips, our auditor, who I sent you his response as well, he suggests that we just make sure that we track it accurately, that we make sure that it is an 8-week period of time. So Cezanne and I have gone over the payroll structure. If we start on the 1st, we'll end at July 20, I mean at, what was it, the 26th of July. And that 8-week period during that time, we expect that our payroll will run somewhere between $41,000 and $43,000 every 2 weeks during that period of time. That gets us to about $166,000, $167,000. It's not necessary that we use the entire loan. Any unused portion of the loan can be sent back and given back and to pay it off. It is a 1% loan. It has to be paid off in 2 years. If you use it as a loan that is not specific to the intent that you applied for. We also spoke to Jason because we wanted to make sure that the loan document, which is encumbers the club to a degree, was vetted by him. He suggested that this is a viable program, that several of his clients are specifically have responded and are doing the same thing. We know that other people that I've talked to, in fact, my insurance company that we use our insurance from, he applied, he got $47,000 to use specifically for the payroll for his staff. So a lot of the people, even in the small business worlds, have all been receiving this on the second go round. We did not get this first go round. We had to apply on the second. We were in the queue. So that's where we sit today, and it's something that, and this is the caveat, if the Small Business Administration and the government decides to forgive the amount that we utilize for this payroll in the amount of 168 to 70,000, we would be able to have that forgiven. Now, as we all know, somewhere down the line over the next few years, the government, in whatever fashion that they plan on doing, is going to recoup this money, trillions of dollars from the tax bucket, and how that's going to occur, we don't know. But if this is forgiven and we do get to pay our payroll for that period of time and not take the money out of our existing operating account, it basically over the next 8 weeks can increase our operating cash balance by $160,000 to $70,000. So where we were at a point in time when the finance committee was a little nervous about our cash sitting at about 230,000, that could be 400,000 by August, if and when everything gets forgiven, and that gives us a good solid cushion moving in towards the rest of the fall and into the season from a cash standpoint on our operating statement.
Let's, may I ask this? Can we get a motion on the table so that we can discuss the issue?
I'll make a motion that we accept the SBA loan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Technically, it's a
Brownie?
PP, it's not a small businessman's loan, isn't it? Isn't it a PPP loan?
Yes, it is. PPP. Brownie?
Okay, a couple of questions, Mark.
Yes,
Did I hear right? The interest rate is 1%?
yes,
What
it
is
is.
it? Okay,
1% per annum. Yes.
yeah, okay. Second question. I read the document in great detail, and one of the inconsistencies, the basis for coming up to 188 is not the same basis as what they'll forgive exactly, as you know. And as you mentioned, they'll forgive 75% of the amount has to be payroll, but 25% can be utilities, internet, and that. So I would think we also want to charge those invoices to that account as long as they don't go over 25% to make sure we get the maximum amount. My other concern is, I don't know how they came up with the payroll number, but again, there's a little inconsistency. It turns out it's a true payroll number. It's not a salary number. So you can't include tax withholding, Medicare, Social Security, and all of that. I think but if you look at the original document, that number you gave probably was a higher number, which was probably total payroll, not the actual amount that's paid. Are you aware of that discrepancy?
The worksheet that was specific to the application asked for the entire total payroll, and it was from 2019. So yes, there's probably a discrepancy between the amount of payroll that was on the actual application that was specific to the 941 forms that PEO had to present to the bank.
Yeah.
But that's why there's a difference.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying we made an error. The point is, so it means that our actual payroll, because you have to take out the taxes, Medicare, and all of that, will not be the 40. Let's say it'll probably be more like 25 or 30. So it'll be quite a bit less. All the more reasons that we make sure we include up to 25% utilities, internet, and I think there's any kind of rent, a few other things. It's very specific, but there is that discrepancy, which was my point about if we're going to recover the whole 188, we want to make sure to probably also charge those utilities. And if we're going to do it, I would think we would take advantage of the whole thing, but realizing the payroll number is going to be less than what we put in. Plus what we put in was 2.5 months, which is more like 10 or 11 weeks. And we're only going to receive 8 weeks. So if you calculate that out, it probably won't be 160. It'll probably be more like 110 or something like that. So all the more reason to have the utilities and internet and at least get it back up to maybe 150.
Those
Plus,
are
I
good
would-
points, Brownie.
You know,
And
so I read
we'll
it in great
certainly do
detail,
that.
and it's very specific in what can be in there and what cannot be in there.
Yeah,
Right.
we
Now,
will-
also, what can be in there are processing fees for payroll too. So what it costs our accounting firm to process all of this can be also offset. So there are things we'll learn as we go along here, but you make good points.
We will vet all of the specific costs and invoices through not only our accountant, maybe our auditor as well, and then the bank to make sure that we're following those guidelines very stringently.
Now,
We should track those costs as well, right?
Well, but my
We will.
question is, we got the bank, the auditor, the accounting, us, who is the person that's gonna really make the decisions on reading that and putting the right numbers in? Who is that? Is
We're
it
gonna
gonna be?
we're gonna ask our accountant that manages our books and puts together our P&L on a monthly basis. She is
Okay.
well versed in this, and she is the CPA along with the auditor to be able to manage that operation.
Okay, no reason, there's like 4 entities involved and it is kind of a detailed thing. Okay. Okay.
Any
Yeah,
other
the other-
discussion?
Yeah, the
Barry.
other thing that Brownie just mentioned is that if you take out the extra pieces of the salaries and so forth, and it drops us down to 110%, then the 75% issue is dropped too. So that doesn't give you, the full 188 because you're not going to be able to take that much out. So you're going to have to probably lower that to a certain amount, much less than the 188, because you can't exceed the 75%.
Well, what I would propose is at the end of 8 weeks, we file for the recovery and we pay off whatever is left over, the 20, 30, or 40, pay it right then, and get rid of it. Okay, whatever it is. Okay.
Right.
The only penalty that I can see, if I'm correct, is if you exceed the 75%, which, if you don't pay the 75%, then the loan itself won't be forgiven, and you would probably have to just pay the 1% interest on whatever's left.
No, well, no. You can recover, they'll forgive whatever qualifies underneath that. So if we don't use the 188, we file for, let's say, the 160, and then we pay off the 20,000 right then. But you don't have to use the whole 188 to be forgiven. You
That's
just be
correct.
forgiven the part that
Correct.
qualifies.
No, I
Right.
understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that if we use monies that exceed the 75% and throws us out of whack, the only bad feature is that we would be obligated to pay the 1% on the monies that are beyond the 75% or below the 75%.
Well, that's the reason I say we pay off the loan in 8 weeks. We don't.
Right. Let's go to Chap, then Lani.
Terry and Mark, I can see no way where what we used would ever exceed 25% of what we use. There's no way that our utilities, which is about the only other thing that qualifies, will ever be more than 3 times what our salaries are.
That's
So
not true. That's not, let me tell you why, chap.
Okay?
Technically, one of the specific items that you can be in that 25%
Yes.
is internet charges. Since which the HOA pays the internet and it's collected as a revenue, technically we could claim the whole internet for the whole community. Not that I'm proposing we do. The point is there's plenty of opportunity to have
Oh,
the whole
yeah.
25%.
I agree with that totally, but that's gaming the system.
That's what?
Gaming the system.
We pay the internet. It is funneled through the HOA, so that gives us.
Chap is just saying that that's cheating. And I understand that. That's what he means. by gaining the system.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. We pay it, but our residents pay us back.
Well, they also pay salaries back too, and we can't claim salaries. It's the same principle.
You could refund the residents if you pay for the internet and get a credit for it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the residents pay the salary, they pay the expenses, they pay everything. We charge it. So there's no different for the internet. The point is, since we actually pay it as a homeowners and it's an assessment, if we don't get up to the 25%, plus we could definitely do the internet charges for the office and all of that. And you know, so, but I don't
Well,
think
no,
it'd be-
the difference that I see.
Wait a minute, Lanny's got the floor, then we can come to you, Terry.
Thank you. Last week, we talked about the possibility of filling our maintenance vacancy. I'm also thinking that as we talk about reopening more areas of the clubhouse, that we may need to have more hours of cleaning staff. Mark, have you considered using some of this money for those staff positions?
We've hired on the fourth person for the maintenance operations.
Oh, great. And if you found that you needed more cleaning hours, would you consider doing that also?
Yes.
So that those are two specific reasons why this is a particularly good time for us to be looking at taking this funding.
Yes, if that is approvable, I thought I read something that we have to have the same amount of staff that we had when we applied for the grant.
Right.
So
some of those staff are on limited hours. They can be expanded hours.
That's good.
Right. And we had maintenance back then.
Yeah. Well, of course, we'd look into everything that we possibly could. Let's go to Terry, then Lindia.
Yeah, one of the functions that I think that this will help us with, which is a big deficit, is that the reduced food and beverage area is the one area that's taken the largest hit. And that's basically because of the pandemic, which took the last piece of our season away from us and took an awful lot of revenue away. So I can see the merits of this being involved with that in mind, chap.
Lindia, then chap.
How does our assessment loan fit in with this?
I think it's distinct and separate.
Do you?
Completely.
I think so too.
Because it's not a mortgage? Because
No,
I
it's not.
noticed you could use,
Yeah, it's not a mortgage, and the
No, it's
word
not a
mortgage
mortgage.
is used very specifically.
okay, I would just run that by just to make sure.
Yeah, that's a
We'll
good
run it
point.
by.
You know, our accountant.
No, we've already vetted all this. This is a completely separate and completely
Oh,
different.
you asked him already? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we can't.
Chap.
I'm going to be the lone dissenting vote on this whole thing. That's fine. I just want to tell you what I think. I do not think we should accept this loan. And there are simple reasons why. One, we don't need it. Two, other people need help now. We do not. Three, I have no interest in getting more involved with the government and the ensuing red tape. Four, that other clubs are accepting it carries no weight with me. Other clubs are either in need, gaming the system, or have no conscience. Put it all together for me is I believe that accepting it is just the wrong thing to do as citizens of this country. That's my only argument.
That's a good one.
Okay. Anyone else?
My only comment to that is I basically have some of that same feeling. If I thought the money was going to go to someone that really needed it, but it's not. And
Right.
you know, to a certain extent, we all pay taxes. This is legal. We should take advantage of it. I would ask how many of you sent your $1,200 back, okay, or 900 or whatever you got, if you felt that way, okay? I don't completely agree with it's a good thing for the government to do, but once it's legal, let's look at the other way. The people that live in Sterling Oaks are citizens. We should share in this program as much as other people. And it's not completely based on need. There are people that need it more than others. But again, you know, I suspect most of us didn't send our $1,200 back.
Linda,
Well, while I understand what Chap is saying, this monies that have gone out very seldom gets to the people who need it, that's for sure. But we did have a loss. Our club did suffer a loss, and the food and beverage took the hit pretty much directly. And we're under fire for food and beverage, and to turn down money that can possibly be forgiven, that would shore up and fill in for those salaries and everything, I think would make us remiss in our duties as fiscally responsible.
chap,
First of all, Brownie, that was a really good gotcha. I didn't send mine back.
Okay.
Now to Linda. Hey, there's no question that accepting this money puts us in better shape than we are now. But I'll remind you that I believe we're in good enough shape now to not need this money. So, you know, I don't have anything else to say. And I will gladly accept whatever the board decides, but I felt just for my own conscience, I needed to tell you the way I feel.
let's
That's
go to
all.
John Mehok, then Jack McBurney, who is on mute right now.
Okay, well, you know, the PPP money you talk about should be going to other people. There's still a big pot of money that hasn't been distributed, hasn't even been applied for yet, okay, number one. But number two, and more important, is that we kept the staff on. We paid them through this so we wouldn't have to lay them off. So that's what the PPP money was for, to make sure that you kept your employees and you didn't have to lay them off and be in a position where you don't know whether they're going to come back or not. The other thing is that last month we were told that we were $30,000 worse in the food and beverage than what we had budgeted to be. So, you know, I think this will help us there. Plus the fact that, you know, we're sitting here making this decision. This decision is going to affect 734 homeowners, okay? And if we wouldn't take this money and then turn around next year and raise the HOA fees, I think we'd have a very angry community. And the other point is, we don't know where the hell we're going to be come the fall or the winter with this stuff. It may throw us in a loop again. So I think if we pass up this money,
That's
which
a good point.
is legitimate, I think we'd be making a big mistake.
Jack McBurney.
Okay, I find it quite ironic that we started this meeting off by reading a letter from a disgruntled member of the community about all the things we're doing wrong. And we're trying to do something right and we still can't please everybody. But that's my only point.
Call for vote.
I mean, who are you not pleasing?
Well, I mean,
Lani has the floor. Go ahead.
I want to second everything that John said. I completely agree with all of those points. And to Chap's point about people needing it most, I think that that's how that addressing that is how we behave regarding our own stimulus checks. We did give away our $2,400. We did not keep ours, but I think I owe it to other residents of Sterling Oaks to take this money.
Well,
Call for the vote.
Michael has the floor.
Oh, okay.
Well, I just wanted to say that I agree with John's statements wholeheartedly.
Very good.
Call for
Okay,
the
are
vote.
we ready to vote on this?
Yeah, call for the vote.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chap opposes. 8-1. Okay, that concludes our business today. Thank you all very much. I'm sorry for calling the emergency meeting, but this is time sensitive and it has to be in within 2 days. So I think this is important for the community, and I thank you all for your attention to the matter.
Mark, this is a detail, Mark. The agreement designates you as the signature as the chief operating officer. Is that going to fly?
Yep.
It's okay?
Not the CEO. I'm just the chief operating. I'm the guy that operates the operation.
Well, as long as the bank will accept it, that's fine with me.
Well, would we be better off for both Mark and Paul signing it?
I'm the only one. I have to do it electronically, and it's me only because I'm the signer, because it's also, I'm the signer on the credit card.
Okay, but y'all have addressed that. There's no
Yeah.
problem with, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. We'll see you all Wednesday.
Okay.
Paul, are you actually driving away?
Heading out tomorrow morning.
All right. Well, safe travels.
Yeah,
Okay,
safe
Safe travels, Paul.
very
All
good. Thank you.
See you
Okay,
guys. Have a good
see
weekend.
you all on Wednesday.
All
okay.
right.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.